people kind of come in here into the live chat. We're interested to see your comments here. We got the big man on campus, Donnie Rightside, Ian Cameron. I am Drew Martin. Guys, let's get right into this. Introduce yourselves. What's on your mind? March Madness, MLB. Donnie Rightside. Find him on Twitter at RightSideVP. Donnie, welcome in, man.
Yeah, one of the best times of the year, March Madness Day, basketball all day long today. Doesn't mean, folks, that you have to bet every single game just because they're on. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Fire when appropriate on these games, and we'll have some fun. Good to be back with the guys this week on the Roundtable.
Yes, sir. And also in the Northeast here, on this show, we got Costa Rica covered, the Northeast part of the United States and Canada. Ian's in Canada, but Donnie's right side man, big man on campus. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Jeff, Mr. College Basketball, welcome in, man.
Thanks, Drew. Pretty good. Good to be on with you in the Roundtable. Looking forward to another good show here.
All right, having a little bit of technical problems, Jeff. I couldn't really hear you. I think we'll get that fixed, though. But going to Canada, Ian Cameron. Find him on Twitter at Babano. Ian, welcome in, man.
Yeah, Drew, it's that time of year where there's games morning, noon, and night now for the next 4 days, even 5, although Sunday it's earlier because you got selection show on Sunday night. But 4 days of just morning, noon, and night basketball, quick turnarounds. Very tough on the odds makers. They've got to basically come up with numbers and lines on the fly. They're going to have to do it without factoring maybe games that go to overtime the previous day, players that could be tired, players that could have played 40 or more minutes on the court. You're going to be able to take advantage of that's just one situation you could take advantage of at conference tournament time. A lot of good opportunities because the odds makers, they don't have much time, and sometimes you can catch them sleeping. So this is a time of year where you can really make some money and capitalize on this.
Yeah, Ian. And guys, we got a big March Madness card. Everybody just hit on it. But first, talking a little bit of MLB preview, 10 minutes or so, and then we'll get into a big March Madness slate for tonight. Also, the next couple days with conference tournaments. Guys, talking the NL East real quick. It's an interesting division. Just one team finishing over 500, and really anywhere close to 500 last year. The Miami Marlins, actually surprising to me, just looking back at it, finished second with Atlanta, followed by the New York Mets and Philadelphia Phillies, which should be improved this year. Excited to get your guys' opinion on all of these. I guess we'll keep Philadelphia till last, so we'll go top to bottom this time. Washington Nationals, one of the best teams regular season-wise last year, 97-65, 47-34 at home. They pretty much dominated the East, going 47-29 against NL East opponents last year. Was an under trender, 69-82 towards the under, plus 5.7 units for their backers last year. Ian, we'll come right back at you, man. Are you looking to kind of lay the wood here this year with the Nationals?
Well, the Nationals, obviously when you look at this team, they're in a division where it's going to be hard-pressed to find someone to truly give them a real stiff battle. There's no denying that. They're going to have a good starting rotation again, you would think, with Max Scherzer leading the way there. Strasburg's going to be pretty good again, you would think. Gonzalez, Tanner Roark, has shown you something. Even A.J. Cole at times gave you a glimpse of good, solid pitching when he went out there on the bump as a starter last year. The bullpen, it's solid. I don't know if it's great, this bullpen, but Kinsler had a good year last year with Minnesota for the most part. So that bullpen's okay. Doolittle, the closer, they got him, of course, from Oakland to bolster that team. They're going to be able to hit. Great lineup, no denying that, with Murphy and Harper, Michael Taylor, Eaton on the outfield, Trey Turner, of course, developing into a great hitter already. Going to be able to hit, going to get good starting pitching, maybe some questions on the bullpen, but obviously the Washington Nationals, a team to beat in the NL East, no denying that whatsoever.
Jeff, what about you, man? Are you going to be looking to lay big numbers with the Washington Nationals this year?
I'm not really ever looking to do that, Drew, personally, but I think, Ian kind of anchors the same sentiment. There's not really anyone that's going to dethrone Washington. Luckily they're in the NL East, a league or a division that's not particularly good. You have the worst team in the league in that division. Look, their rotation's very good, especially if you can get Gio Gonzalez to pitch how he pitched last year. He was very good. But yeah, you look at the lineup. Obviously Harper, Murphy, Ryan Zimmerman's another year older. What are you going to get this year out of Adam Eaton? He's back from injury. Their lineup's decent. I'm not in love with it, but I guess it's good enough. They'll win just because there's no one else in this division that's going to challenge them for it. The bullpen got stronger last year as well, which is a bit of a problem towards the All-Star break. They went out and got Kinsler and Madsen and Doolittle. So, rotation-wise, I think they're very good. They're kind of the opposite of the Yankees. They have a very good rotation and bullpen, but the line. I'm not in love with this lineup. I need Trey Turner to kind of be what we hope he is. You need Rendon to have a good year. What are you going to get out of Matt Wieters and Zimmerman is a big question. There's some holes in that lineup. Michael Taylor's at times kind of a guy that you can't really depend on. Love Harper, love Heaton, love Murphy, but can Murphy hit the same as he did last year? It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, you bring up Gio Gonzalez, Miami Pace graduate from high school, faced him in high school. But Donnie, what are you thinking about the Nationals this year, man?
Yeah, BetOnline showing that number of 93 is the over. I'm going to lean towards the over on that one for the Nationals, and basically echoing the same sentiments as everybody here on the roundtable. If you take a look at, there's nobody really challenging. I saw Kenley Jansen put out an article, and he's right. There's like 5 or 6 teams that are trying to win the World Series. Everybody else is just trying to make money. Philadelphia Phillies are still a few years away at this point. The New York Mets, they have a very formidable starting staff and a decent hitting lineup. We'll get to, yes, but I mean they're one arm away from breaking down like they did last year. The Miami Marlins are an embarrassment, and the Atlanta Braves aren't ready to win yet. This is Washington's division again. Just hand it over to them. It's just a matter of how many wins they want to rack up, because in this division, unless the Mets really press them, they might be able to run and hide. I think they can get to the high 90s in wins just by default here.
All right, good stuff on the Nationals, guys. We got the Miami Marlins actually finishing second last year. Next up, 77-85, 20 games back from the Nats. Finished -6 units for their backers if you bet them every time. And also an over trender, 84-67. Remember, they moved the fences in there at Miami Ballpark a couple years ago. So 84-67 towards the over. We'll start off with you, Jeff. I guess it's a low season win total. They're not going to be priced very highly, losing a lot off their whole roster. So it's an interesting handicap here. How are you looking to bet on the Miami Marlins this year?
Well, I mean, look, they're not going to be good. I mean, we all know that, but I'm going to be in a minority. I don't hate their lineup. It's not terrible. Like, I don't think it's brutal. I think they're going to be a lot like the Tampa Bay Rays kind of, which, again, isn't good, but I think their lineup's okay. I don't hate it. I definitely don't like their pitching rotation. I mean, do you trust anyone here? I mean, your number one starter is Dan Straley. Dan Straley, you kidding me? Bullpen's a mess. Don Mattingly doesn't know how to manage. And look, they've made it clear they don't want to win. I mean, Derek Jeter's made that perfectly acceptable in Miami right now with the moves that he made. He get rid of everybody, he cut all this payroll, and you try to act like you want to win to your people. I mean, to your fans. I don't know. I mean, I don't hate their lineup. They're not going to win many games, though. They're like a 65-win team. That's all they are.
Okay. And Ian, I guess anything different from what Jeff said on the Marlins?
Yeah, the Marlins are the starting pitching. If you look at that rotation, I mean, okay, Jose Urena is the one guy that's maybe got a little bit of an upside, a little bit of a high ceiling. But other than that, Straley, you can't trust him. He's been prone to the gopher ball. Home runs have killed him. Hard contact given up. Adam Conley's a guy I don't trust. He's been up and down, very inconsistent. Odrisamer Despaigne coming over. I don't know what you're going to get from him. Dylan Peters is a guy slotted in as the 5th starter right now. This is a guy that's, a 10th round pick in 2014, so what can you really expect from him in terms of this starting rotation? So it's a real question mark there. Bullpen, Barraclough, they got some decent arms. Tazawa's, though, a little hit or miss for me, but Ziegler is the closer. That's not even a position that's great. Lineup's okay. I mean, Justin Bour has got power at first base. We know he can hit home runs, no question. Martin Prado's here now, Castro, Maben, Brinson, Dietrich. So they'll be able to hit a bit. Over team is what I'm thinking. Miami Marlins going to play some overs, going to hit a little bit. No pitching that I trust. So over the total, high-scoring games for the Marlins, I could definitely see that happening.
Donnie, I'm interested in your opinion because both Jeff and Ian bring up the point that the pitching rotation is going to be weaker. And it's I think an interesting handicap because they're season win totals in the low 60s here. However, I'll go back at them and say if you look at this rotation, yeah, Dan Straley at number 1, it's not obviously great, but you got Urena, he's a high upside guy. You got this 22-year-old from the Dominican that throws high 90s, Alcantara, I'm not sure on his name, obviously a high ceiling guy. Bring up Adam Conley, tall lefty. He's got kind of high upside as well. I don't necessarily think if it all goes well from their pitching rotation that they're necessarily one of the worst pitching rotations in the MLB. So I think that it actually could be a spot to kind of bet on the Marlins with getting big plus prices.
Yeah, now day-to-day basis, I would agree with you there, Drew, because we're looking at a dead stadium atmosphere. Let's just say you go down to Miami, it's a great party city, and you're going to have one of those, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock afternoon games where it's a getaway game. That's a great spot to bet the Marlins in these type of instances. But season-long totals, even though they're 64.5, and you like to say, you know what, the worst teams of all time, as I say, week in, week out, are going to win over 60 games. The problem that you have with the Marlins, it is a complete rebuild. And Jeff is right, their lineup, opening day, when you look at it, it's not that bad out there. But here's the problem. Castro is going to be traded at the deadline. They're probably going to try to get something for Justin Bour. Martin Prado, a veteran, he's probably going to get moved. And any piece that shows up in that bullpen for the Marlins as a decent arm for the first half of the season, they will be sold at the deadline as well. This is a single A ball club looking for a long-term rebuild. I want nothing to do with taking an over on the season total, but there will be spots that you want to pick and choose to try to get some value, and those getaway day games where they have 300 people in the stands and the other team partied all night because of how bad the Marlins are, and they're going for a 3-game sweep. That's the only time I'm looking to bet the Marlins this year.
All right. And Ian or Jeff, do you guys want the last word on the Marlins pitching rotation or anything?
Yeah, I think Donnie's right. I mean, they will look to unload their players. I mean, they've made it a point to admit I think their goal is to be as bad as possible, and yeah, that's a shame. I mean, to those fans down there, the fans that like baseball. But yeah, I think one of the chatters, I just got the chat up here, I think he's right in a way that when Jose Fernandez passed, it seemed like ever since then this team's just been a mess. I mean, it's a shame because he was their ace. He was their guy that I thought for many years down the road he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. You lose him and he passes, and now look, I'm not saying he's why they're bad, but he was their guy. He was their ace. He was the future for them, and it really just ever since then has been a mess down in Miami.
Yeah, that's
and you got people now in the local Miami-Dade community coming out now and saying we were buyer's remorse. We shouldn't have built Marlins Park. It's been run, the organization's been run poorly. That's nothing more than talking out of both sides of your mouth. If the team's winning, if it was been run good the last several years, and you're filling the place, are you having buyer's remorse? Then no, it's because everything's fallen apart. You've been poorly run. Your results on the baseball field have been a disaster. That's why you're having buyer's remorse. If you were actually running a good product, running a good organization, putting a good baseball team out on that field, you wouldn't have that remorse. So that's just talking out of both sides. It's gone wrong. It's gone horribly wrong. So now, yeah, we're going to have regret that we built Marlins Park and put the money into it. Yeah, that's why.
Jeff, you bring up a good point with the Cuban contingency being Jose Fernandez, kind of backing him down there in South Florida. You know, I grew up down there, and Ian, you bringing up the ballpark thing, it was kind of weird where the position they put it in, and I'll tell you, when Jose Fernandez went down, like my stepmom, she's from Cuba, it just lost so much of their fan base because it really just kind of killed them down there in South Florida, and they've been killed a bunch in South Florida with kind of the selling off of the baseball team. So baseball fans down there have been through a lot. But guys, third team up, Atlanta Braves, 72-90 last year, 37-44 at home. So a team that really couldn't win at home at all in the new ballpark. -4 units last year, 81-76 towards the over. Atlanta Braves kind of, I've heard a lot of people kind of jumping on this train. Some people looking to fade them. Interesting handicap here. Donnie, you want to start us off with the Braves?
Yeah, looking at the Braves, they're supposed to be building a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Didn't seem to be the trend last year when they opened up SunTrust. But taking a look at the lineup, it's not a bad lineup. But I got to tell you, I'm not in love with the Atlanta Braves. I think it's a team that's going to be slotted just above the Marlins here. When we take a look at the win total over 75, I'm actually leaning toward an under at this point. I'm not in love with the pitching staff, not in love with the bullpen. And the lineup from top to bottom just doesn't excite me. Inciarte at the top of the lineup, Ozzie Albies, we'll see what he turns out to be. But Freddie Freeman is another one of those pieces. They haven't moved him just yet, but when's the time to move on from Freddie Freeman? Because you're not going to be a contender this year. You can get a boatload for him, so if they're going to unload him, it will be at the deadline this year. Just not all that impressed with Atlanta at this point. I'm going to go under 75 in the spot.
All right, Donnie looking to fade the Braves. Jeff, what about you, man?
Yeah, I think they kind of, I don't know, they're weird, man. What are you going to get at Julio Teheran? I mean, he was very good on the road, but just a dreadful pitcher at home. I mean, he's your guy. You got to get much more out of him. I like their lineup, though. I mean, I think if their young guys can, be who they think they can be, I mean, they're kind of. I mean, Donnie, answer me this, Don. I mean, the Phillies are a similar team to the Braves, but they have all young guys. Braves have at least Freeman. They have some other, Markakis is still a pretty good hitter. Inciarte is still a good hitter. I mean, lineup-wise, they're a lot like the Phillies, aren't they?
Yeah, I like the Phillies a little bit more. I think the Phillies a little. I mean, we'll talk about it in a second. I think they're a little bit more talented. I just don't know where the shape up of the actual Braves is going and how quickly they're going to transfer over that young talent onto the field. I think the Phillies are a little bit ahead of them at this point.
Yeah, I hear you. I just kind of made the point that I think they're similar in a way. Right. But, they bring in, look at these guys they bring in. Brandon McCarthy. I mean, Scott Kazmir. Where are the young arms? I mean, Fulton-Avich, is he going to develop? Sean Newcomb, they have the kid Blair, I believe, down still. Are you going to develop some of these arms? You're going to bring them up at some point? I feel like if you're going to rebuild. What are you bringing Scott Kazmir in for? I guess you need a veteran on the team. But I'm kind of numb on the Braves. I think they're a hard handicap because you just don't really know. I mean, these young kids could be really good and kind of start to set the tone as MLB players, or just be team kids that struggle like last year. Camargo was brutal last year at times. Rio Ruiz, Dansby Swanson, all those guys struggled to kind of translate into the MLB. I mean, another year, we'll see. This is the hardest team to me in baseball to handicap.
Yeah, Dansby Swanson, he kind of underperformed there, had a high ceiling, didn't live up to it. You also bring up Fulte as the pitcher, high upside guy. Ian, anything on the Braves?
Yeah, I'd like to know what Atlanta's really thinking here, because what did they decide to do in the offseason here? Did they decide to visit some starting pitching assembly line factory where they roll out decrepit starting pitchers? They arrive there, they bring out the wheelchairs, put all the guys in the wheelchair and stroll them right back to the ballpark? Because that's what you're doing here with Brendan McCarthy and Scott Kazmir. You talk about guys that have been injured many times, that are older pitchers now. I don't see why you think there's going to be upside in either of these two guys right now at this stage of the career. Not sure what Atlanta's doing there. Mike Fulton-Avich, here's another guy can throw very hard. He's got some decent stuff, but he's got to be able to harness it and be more consistent. That's been an issue. Newcomb's not really done much for me. Tehran's a head case upstairs. I mean, a 4.5 ERA for a guy with his stuff last year is insane. That he's not better than that, and he couldn't win a game in his home ballpark last year to save his life. So what are you going to get from him? And he's supposed to be the anchor of this rotation. So I've got issues and concerns with that. The lineup's okay, but it's not anything to write home about. I agree. I like what the Phillies are doing. We're going to talk about them in a minute. They're finally going young. They're going to put some of these blue chip prospects into this team this year. Not seeing that with Atlanta. So, yeah, not very high on the Braves at this point in time, unless they show me something otherwise.
Yeah, guys, we got two teams left in the NL East. Let's go quick through them and get to March Madness. New York Mets, 70-92. Minus 30 units for their backers last year, 90 and 60 towards the over. Donnie, anything on the Mets this year?
Yeah, it looks like they're expecting a big jump last year. As you said, they finished up, 70 and 92, now sitting at 82.5 at BetOnline as their team total. I'm kind of buying a little bit into the Mets because if some things go right, I think they can achieve that. Because if you're looking at the pedestal in the NL East, they're clearly the second best overall talented team. Not from a hitting perspective with their lineup. They do have some aging veterans on that team. But if they can ever get their pitching staff correct, and I don't even mean pitching to a high level, just keeping those guys healthy out there, they're clearly going to have an advantage over Miami, Atlanta, and the Philadelphia Phillies, which you should be able to stack up wins. And this is one of the few teams that can go toe-to-toe with that Washington pitching staff. Now, what are you going to get at Yoenis Cespedes, Jay Bruce, Todd Frazier, and Adrian Gonzalez? Seemingly that really old core. If this was 2011, you probably would be picking them to maybe even win the division. But I am a little bit of a buyer on the Mets. It is quite a big jump, but I think they can pile up some victories against the lower-level NL East teams. I think they make a playoff push for a wild card. I'll lean on the over 82.5 here.
Dang, Jeff, you thinking the Mets can make a push for the wild card as well?
Yeah, I agree with Donnie. I'm pretty high on them as well. I think they will make a push for the wild card. I like the Mickey Callaway, bringing him in. Look, their rotation is as good as anybody if all those guys are healthy and of mind, body, and soul. Obviously, we know Matt Harvey had some mind issues last year, but I still think Matt Harvey's a good pitcher. Syndergaard and DeGrom are two of the best in the league. You get a fourth starter in Vargas. I think that's what he is. You still have Zach Wheeler. But yeah, Donnie's right with the moves. I mean, you have three of the slowest people in baseball on your team. Adrian Gonzalez, Jay Bruce, with this Smith kid. This Smith kid's like 1 year into his career, and he's already one of the slowest people in the league. He looks like Prince Fielder out there. But I like their lineup with Conforto and Cespedes. Asdrubal Cabrera is an underrated guy. Didn't get a lot of love. And this Rosario kid came out from kind of nowhere. Yeah, I like them. I think they're a decent team. I think they can challenge. Will they beat the Nationals? Probably not. But I think the wild card would be a win for them this year. I like the Mets a little bit.
All right, good stuff on the Mets. Ian, we'll get you in on the Mets. Also want to introduce the Phillies, get your thoughts so we can go a little quicker. Phillies 66-96 last year. Looks like minus 11 units for their backers, 71 and 77 trending towards the under. Ian, any conclusion with the Mets, and what are your thoughts on the Phillies this year?
Yeah, we'll hit them up both. Mets, to me, I'm a little more hesitant with the Mets because I don't know if these guys are going to be healthy at the top of this rotation, your Syndergaards, Harveys, and DeGroms. But if they are, they can exceed that win total. There's no question. And if they pitch well, you're going to be on target to be a better than 500 baseball team this season if you're the Mets. Lineup is decent. Bullpen, Jerry's Familia needs a bounce-back season. I think he's capable of having it. So, yeah, the potential is definitely there for the Mets to overperform their win total, but it's going to come down to that starting rotation being healthy. The Phillies, they're finally doing what Donnie and Jeff have been crying out for. They're finally going to turn it over and put some of these young guys on this baseball team. You know, we know they've had Maikel Franco for years, Odubel Herrera. Nick Williams got some time finally the second half of last year and really made the most of it. He was fantastic. Rhys Hoskins is getting a lot of hype for this Phillies team going into the season coming up. So there are now signs of this team finally putting some of this younger talent in there. You got J.P. Crawford's going to be in at the shortstop spot. So lots of good things to like. I still am an Aaron Nola believer. I still like what I see from him. I think he's going to be solid. Eichhoff, Velasquez, Eflin, Pivetta. There's a lot of more question marks with them, but Nola's the one guy I'll hang my hat on and be looking to bet on this season. No question about that for the Phillies. That bullpen still is a dog's breakfast. Who knows what we're going to get from them? I do like the Neshek addition, though. He's a guy that's capable, sidewinder, can get guys out in big spots. That's an addition that should improve this bullpen a bit. So for me, Phillies, I like finally what they're doing.
All right, and what, Donnie, you got the lunch shift at Applebee's coming up in your hometown Phillies. What do you got on them, man?
Yeah, they asked, what I do. I am a sous chef at Applebee's and part-time, so after this show, I will be heading over there. But getting back to the Phillies, we're going to take a look at the back end of the bullpen, which I like. Ian just brought up Hector Neris, very good at the back end. You got Tommy Hunter, and also bringing back Pat Neshek. That's going to set up, which means those 4 to 5 games that you typically blow because the Phillies bullpen is awful, we might be able to lock down a couple of those wins, which will be key if you're looking to bet the over the win total. The one thing I'm going to hammer the Phillies on is this lineup will be able to hit. The question I have is how quickly they're going to gel. And Scott Kingery, if you don't know, is the next up-and-coming Chase Utley, Dustin Pedroia sort of player that's going to be plugged in at second base. But as Jeff heard me all last year, he's hitting .390 right now in the minor leagues. He crushed it last year in the minor leagues. But you know what, folks? Sometimes it's not about winning. It's about saving money long term. You probably won't see him for the first 6 months of the season, even though he might be the best player in their organization. It's all about the money, not about the W's here with the Philadelphia Phillies just yet.
Not all about the W's, Jeff. You agree with Donnie?
Yeah, I think he's on to something. I think Ian Cameron is making, naming every player on the team today on this team? My God, I feel like did he even name the World Series roster from 08 too? I didn't hear some of those guys, but yeah, listen, I like the Phillies. Obviously, being in the city, you learn a lot about this team. Rhys Hoskins is a great kid. I mean, you look at what he's projected to do. You bring up Nick Williams finally, J.P. Crawford. I mean, about time, Donnie. Or am I right? About time they bring up some of these little guys, bring them up to the big boys. I think the rotation sucks, personally. I don't know why you don't go out and get Jake Arrieta. I don't know what the hell you're waiting on. Look, Nola's fine, but I don't trust anyone else in this rotation, honestly. Vinny Velasquez, strikeout guy, all or nothing, really. Eflin's a mess. Pavetta's a mess. Eichhoff was a mess. What are you going to do? Go down and get Sean O'Sullivan again from the bullpen? Or from the minor leagues? Maybe Jeff Geary. Maybe you go out and get him, too. I think their bullpen's good. I like what they have there. I mean, bring in Tommy Hunter, bring in Neshek. You got Neris, like Donnie talked about. I like their bullpen, but the rotation stinks.
All right, guys, good MLB talk. We got 60 seconds with Ian Cameron, and then the rest of the show dedicated towards March Madness. Ian, go ahead, 60 seconds. Any Canadian sports?
Yeah, I mean, really, it's NHL hockey right now for the foreseeable future in terms of the periphery sports, you could say. Unfortunately, and I mentioned this on Twitter, you have bad nights in a certain sport. That was me last night. I took a massive shit, as I said on Twitter, in the NHL. I'm not proud of it, but that's the way it goes sometimes. It's just wasn't our night on the ice last night. Lost a couple games in overtime, a couple dogs too, so disappointing. But hey, lots to like in terms of the product on the ice right now. Lots of exciting divisional races going on. You've got Winnipeg and Nashville dueling it out in the Central Division. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington battling it out for first in the Metro Division. You've got the Atlantic Division race heating up. You've got the Pacific Division as well. Vegas battling out there for first place along with Anaheim, other teams like that. So lots of good division races and a great game tonight on NBC Sports Network. And even my Philly friends here might have an eye on this one. Penguins and Flyers, NBC Sports Network tonight. Two teams battling for first, in-state rivalry. Two teams playing good hockey right now. That should be a fun game to watch, and I'm looking forward to it.
All right, good stuff, Ian. Guys, March Madness, let's get into it. Bet on, fade teams, conference tournaments. Jeff, Mr. College Basketball, on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. If you're not following him, you're doing yourself a disservice. He's absolutely killing the college basketball markets. Any bet on or fade teams you're looking at for conference tournaments, also into the big tourney?
Yeah, I'm actually kind of going to use one big conference in general. I don't know how you can honestly bet the SEC conference and feel comfortable with it. I mean, you have a neutral site. You have multiple teams in this conference that have shown they can't win on the road. They're only a team that can win at home. Mississippi State, Alabama, Arkansas. Can these teams go on the road and win are the big questions. Kentucky's been all over the place. Auburn, they've been all over the place lately. What's Florida? Does anyone have any idea what Florida team's going to show up from game to game? I'm telling you, I'm looking at a team like Missouri. That's a team I'm looking at. I love that team. You bring Michael Porter in, hopefully. He's a guy that can maybe vault them to a win. But I think as a whole, it's a fade of this conference. It's not going to be much on my card. I never know what to get with these teams. You don't have the ability to play at home this year. Like, maybe you like an Alabama, but you have issues with them. But then you see, well, they are at home, and they've been great there. Most of these teams have real issues on the road, and therefore I'm not interested in betting them. I just don't know where you're going to be able to find value on them.
Okay. No, it's an interesting take you have. Donnie, I'll follow up. Jeff and I do a show called Bet Buffet, and I brought up an interesting topic to him. What about fading the Auburn Tigers SEC tournament, their first game against the winner of Texas A&M and Alabama? I think they're 1-2 against both teams this year, and I think it would actually help Auburn going into the tournament. They're banged up. Only 7 or 8 guys that really in their rotation now to get extra rest into the tournament. Just a one and done in the SEC. You think that that's a possibility? And also, what's your bet on and fade team?
Yeah, if we're taking a look at both of those, bring up a good point with Auburn. One of the spots I actually like in conference tournaments play, it's a little bit quirky. I like the teams that have played the night before and won, and playing against a team who has not played on that neutral court just yet. Auburn's going to set up in that similar scenario where maybe if you're Texas A&M or Alabama, you had a nice night. You got the shooting lines down. You felt good. You know what locker room you're in. You know exactly how to travel to the stadium. You're already in there and getting those good vibes going. So it's a great fade spot if you're going to go against Auburn. If we're taking a look at some bet on fade teams for the tournament going forward, Jeff and I talked about it yesterday. It's a pretty easy one for me. I want to take a look at Arizona moving forward. Not so much in the conference tournament. I'm just waiting for the big three to get back and the coaching staff and get those good vibes and all those suspension news out of the way, because they do have the single best player in college basketball in DeAndre Ayton at this point. Just a matter if they're going to mold and gel before they hit the big stage. I like Arizona going forward. The team I'm looking to fade here going forward, and maybe even starting tonight in conference play, is the Oklahoma Sooners. I mean, the Oklahoma Sooners, if you take a look night in, night out, they're basically relying on one player, but this is not a home game for Oklahoma. It's going to be on the neutral site, and if you take a look at Oklahoma's schedule, folks, it's no surprise. They've lost 9 straight games on the road. Their last win on the road versus TCU, a 1-point victory, December 30th. Fade them if they're away from home. I think Oklahoma State may be able to take them down. I'm definitely fading Oklahoma moving forward.
All right, fading Oklahoma. And Ian, what about you? Bet on fade teams?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's about individual game bet on and bet against teams in terms of just a generic blanket statement for the next little while because you got to play it game by game. I mean, for me, I'm looking at Colorado's just on today's board, Colorado State and Ole Miss. I'm not sure what either of those teams brings to the table. Both of those guys have seen their coaches dismissed. Eustace and Colorado State, Kennedy and Ole Miss, they haven't played well down the stretch. Are they really teams that you can trust to hit the reset button and suddenly find new life here in the conference tournaments? I'm not convinced with either one, Colorado State or with Ole Miss. Bet on NC State with Kevin Keatts there, because Kevin Keatts has done great work in conference tournaments past with NC Wilmington. He's no stranger to these settings. This is a deep basketball team, so it's a situation where NC State may not be able. Well, they will be able to deal with fatigue maybe better than certain other teams, be able to deal with quick turnarounds better than certain other teams. So I like NC State a little bit this week, and Ole Miss and Colorado State, I'd be questionable about them.
Hey,
all right,
Drew.
good stuff for bet on fade teams. Guys in the chat box, lighten it up. Over 350 people watching. If you're liking the content, please give us the thumbs up sign. Also, if you could share on Facebook or retweet on Twitter, trying to get the word out as well. Guys, we got a couple, and that would help us out, a couple games we want to go over. 6-5, Oklahoma State. Looks like the Sooners laying 1.5 on the road. Looks like, actually, Heritage just went to pick them. So did Intertop. So this is a good one to shop around on SBR odds right now. Looks like the total is, actually don't have the total up, but Jeff, you want to start us off with Oklahoma State, how you're looking to bet it?
Yeah, sure. Real quick before I do start off, just want to throw a little nugget out there to the people. The Southland Conference gets going today down in Katy, Texas, one of the best tournaments in the country. Make sure you're well aware there are 6 teams out of the 9 represented, or 8 represented, I'm sorry, that are in the top 100 in pace of play. This is a very high-level conference. They go crazy, they go quick, they go fast. Make sure you're well aware of that. Nicholls State team, very fast. Central Arkansas, all those teams, very quick. So make sure you're well aware of that. As far as this conference, this game here, Oklahoma State, I think Donnie makes a good point. I mean, it's hard to ever back this Oklahoma team. They've just been so inconsistent. They play little to no defense. But I have a hard time thinking that they lose their first game in this tournament. You know, I like Oklahoma State. They've been impressive. They've been a lot better than I thought they would. They definitely played a lot more defense this year, which is nice to see. Last year they were a sieve at times on the defensive end. But I have a hard time thinking Oklahoma loses. I don't have a ton. It's a bit of a coin flippy game. But I think Trae Young will at least will his team to win one game. The way they shoot, I think they'll be a better offensive in this game. And this Oklahoma State team only shoots 41% away from Gallagher-Iba Arena. So that's tough to back. They've struggled to run the road defensively as well. I think this will be a pretty high-scoring game, back and forth. But I think Oklahoma will find a way to win.
Anil and Eric in the live chat saying they like Oklahoma State as well. Ian, anything in this game?
Yeah, Oklahoma's the one team that, as disappointing as they were down the stretch, and it couldn't have been more disappointing for them than it was. Just a terrible losing streak to end. Some of these teams, which ones deciphering which ones will hit that reset button and maybe wipe the slate clean and maybe start fresh and go on a run in the conference tournaments. Maybe you leave the door open for Oklahoma to do that. They've still got a good coach in Lon Kruger. They've still got maybe the best player on the floor. I'd say he is in Trae Young in this game. He's got to make good decisions with the basketball. And I've been a proponent of Oklahoma State. No question. I've been impressed with them at times. I've liked taking big points with them as underdogs. This is a role, though, that's a little different. They're going to have to win this game in order to cash a ticket. I'm going to lean a little bit to Oklahoma here. Don't love it, but if I'm making a play on this game, which I like to do with these highlighted games, I'd look to the Oklahoma Sooners. I think this is a chance for a team maybe to at least string a couple of wins together in this Big 12 tournament.
And it looks like the total opened 162, bet down to as low as 160 right now at 5 dimes in Pinnacle. Donnie, anything in Bedlam college basketball-wise?
Yeah, is my fade team Oklahoma. I'm not going to tell you guys to go out and bet Oklahoma tonight, or I just told them to fade it. So I'm going to lean Oklahoma State, just like the way they finished the season, winners 3 out of 4 games, including bouncing Texas Tech and monster smashing the Kansas Jayhawks. We'll see how that bolds well when it goes to a neutral court. But anything outside of Oklahoma at home, I'm just not interested in. I'll take Oklahoma State in this spot here.
All right, good stuff there in Bedlam. We got 5-7-9, Notre Dame, Virginia Tech. Guys, looks like Notre Dame laying 2.5 on the road, 141 the total. Ian, you want to start us off in this game real quick in the ACC?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with it. I was hoping for something a little closer to pick 'em in that range, but even at 2.5, I'll go ahead with Notre Dame. No one's going to want to probably love Notre Dame today after how they struggled with Pitt yesterday, but sometimes you got to don't always bet based on what you saw last. We always say that about the NFL. Well, I'm going to say that about Notre Dame. I think they've got a better game in them today against Virginia Tech here, and will be able to get the job done. Obviously, they did not shoot the ball well at all in that game against Pitt, which was very, very surprising. Defensively, they were fine. I thought they played a solid, good defensive game for the most part, but offensively, the shooting just was not there. You got guys that normally make big shots that weren't. Matt Farrell hit a couple threes, but outside of that, Pfluger didn't shoot the ball well. A bunch of guys on that Notre Dame team didn't have a good day in terms of their shooting accuracy. So for me, I think Notre Dame's going to have a better shooting day. Obviously, they need this game badly for any sort of tournament hopes. So I'm going to still go ahead. Not the price I was hoping for, but at least it's still short enough that it's playable. Notre Dame minus the 2.5 tonight.
All right, Jeff, anything to add what Ian said on this game?
No, I tend to agree with him. I think when I saw the bracket come out, I picked Notre Dame to beat Virginia Tech. I just don't really want to take Virginia Tech away from Blacksburg. They struggle to me on the road. It seems like they go through these stretches where they can't score. Defensively, I think they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, though I think they're solid on that end. Notre Dame needs it. They struggled yesterday. I was very surprised at how that game turned out. I mean, they had to struggle to win the game. I think Mike Bray will have a little fire under them today, right after. They did have the benefit of playing yesterday. I know sometimes people think that's a bit of a hurt kind of thing, but they played yesterday. They know the rims a little bit better. They were out there. They kind of just, it's almost like when you get drunk. The common wives' tale is to drink a beer the next morning. That's kind of the way to get rid of it, supposedly. But that's how I look at it. I'd want to get right back out there and take care of what I didn't do yesterday. And I think they'll get a win here. I think Notre Dame, Duke will be a fun one. They need these wins. If they can win today, I think they might be in the tournament, Notre Dame.
Yeah, beer the next morning. It's also dangerous because sometimes one beer turns into 2, turns into 3, and then, never know where that goes.
There's one quick point I want to make on the Notre Dame game. It's hard to get yourself fired up for a 2:30 game, nobody in the crowd against a lowly Pittsburgh team. Let's keep that in mind. Yeah, I think they were just going through the motions, flat. Just there's not much energy going on. They did what they needed to do to get out of there with the win. I think you will see better Notre Dame tonight. We'll see.
Hey, we want to get Donnie's thoughts on this game, but Jeff, okay to come back to you. We got Shiza in the live chat. A couple other guys asking about early game betting opinions on today's card. Can we come back at you with a minute or two of your thoughts?
Sure.
All right, Donnie, anything on Notre Dame, Virginia Tech?
Yeah, real quick. I mean, again, Jeff brings it up. Notre Dame already played yesterday, and sometimes I kind of like the betting angle where you play a team that you're supposed to destroy. You sort of let them slip back into the game, and you have to pull it out at the end because then the coach gets your attention the next day. If you have a 10-point lead heading into the second half, the coach is going to lamp down and say, remember yesterday, don't turn the ball over. Don't put yourself in those same type of situations. The one thing I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with Notre Dame, which I don't like this whole sentiment that, Bonzie Colson didn't play for a month and a half, so we should automatically put them in because they're a top 25 team if they did have him play. Such a dangerous president going forward because if one of your top players, why not just sit him for the entire month of February when you play your conference slate? And if you lose every single game and then bring that player back, you can always say to the committee, say, hey, with our best player back, we're one of the top teams in the country. Just put us all automatically in the tournament. I don't like that precedent, but I do think Notre Dame can get the victory today.
Yeah, interesting point there, Donnie. Good handicapping angle.
He had a broken foot.
Just have the floor,
so
Jeff.
what happens if Cam Newton for Auburn back in the day broke his leg in September and they took 3 losses, and then at the end of the season they beat in the Iron Bowl Alabama, but they have 3 losses. They don't go. But I'm just using that as a precedent. Like you have to perform.
Yeah, in terms of their
you don't get
inclusion in the tournament. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
All right, guys, I lost you a little bit with the sound, but Jeff, just have the floor, man.
Sorry, man. No, I guess someone wants me to talk about the 12 o'clock game. Listen, man. I mean, I've made this clear. I'm not going to give an opinion on a game I just don't really have an opinion on. I think this is a coin flippy game. I think these are two teams very similar. I guess you give a slight edge defensively to Louisville, but I mean, neither of these teams have played particularly good defensively lately. Um, Again, I'm not a big fan of bet 12 o'clock games. I've made that very clear throughout my time here at SBR. I don't like them. I don't, especially on a weekday. You have two teams that haven't played. This could be a real slow start. Maybe you take a first half under here. I'm not big on first halves, but I mean, it might be worth a look. These teams haven't played. It's early. But I hate to say it, I don't have much of an opinion on this game. I think Florida State's the better team. I think Louisville is. I commend them. I think they battled this year, especially with all the things going on. They lose their coach. They lose people, recruits, all sorts of stuff. But the kids that battled, they didn't really do anything wrong. They're just there to play basketball. I think the season will end on a whimper here in the conference tournament for Louisville. I'd lean Florida State, just like them more athletically. But you're up to 2.5 now. This line's really going up. A lot of people getting on the Seminoles here.
Okay, and would you look to lay it with NC State or I guess any other
Yeah,
early games?
I think NC State's a real good bet. I think they're a team that you have to look out for in this tournament. 28-1, not bad. NC State handled Boston College back on February 20th. I remember being on that game. Donnie, you remember that game? They laid 5 points.
Yep.
I think NC State's worth a look. At 2.5, 3, I was really into them. Lines obviously going up. People agree. This will be a heavily public back game if you're looking at NC State. A lot of people will be on them here. They'll look at the same things I did as far as BC really struggling that game. I just think, like what Ian said, Kevin Keatts is a good tournament coach. He has that press that can really bother you. I just look at past games. NC State really took it to Boston College. So for me, yeah, I definitely like NC State more than the other game.
Okay, and then
NC State,
just
NC
real
State,
quick, if you don't have anything, that's cool. Air Force, UNLV, or Arizona State, Colorado, or
I
what?
think
There's
UNLV.
Sunbelt games as well. Texas State, Coastal Carolina. Anything
Yeah.
tickle your fancy?
Yeah, I think UNLV is a pretty good play today. At home, I think they're a great matchup they're going to be a tough matchup for a lot of teams. You don't have a lot of teams, especially, I mean, they're about the luckiest team in the country to play at home. I mean, they really have an edge there, and they're a lot better in Thomas and Mack or wherever they're playing. At least it's in Las Vegas. Yeah, they should crush Air Force. Should be a problem. They're only laid 9.5. You don't have to lay 14 or anything. The other games, I don't have much on just yet. I'm a Sun Belt fan, not really. And I like UT Arlington and Lafayette, but some of these teams, no. I'll be more interested in like Central Arkansas, Lamar, and Florida A&M Hampton over these.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Hey, guys, we got best bets coming up. We've been 66% on the year so far. That's since January 1st. But first, let's get to the Degenerate Special. I don't think we've been as good. I know I personally haven't on this. Granted, we have to make a pick on this game, whereas best bets, it's for the whole board. So obviously a little bit better winning percentage. Guys, it's the late game. Washington State versus Oregon, Pac-12 tourney, 147 and a half. The total looks like the Ducks laying 12. Donnie, anything on this game?
Yeah, I've been pretty bad at the degenerate special here, but I'll lean in on this one as well. I'm going to take the points in this one because making it to the dance, all you have to do is survive in advance. You don't have to cover point spreads. You don't have to blow teams out. You don't have to say, look at us, look how much we won by in this game. A 1-point win is just as good as a 25-point win. You don't want to go out there and expend all your energy. If you're up 20 points with 8 minutes to go, you're going to get some subs in. You're going to play a little bit down. Maybe some of the kids you don't get in say, hey, look, you're going to be in a conference tournament game. Have some fun out there. I'll take the points in this because, again, it's not about blowing teams out and being impressive. It's just about winning the game.
All right. And Jeff, anything different than what Donnie said?
I agree with him 100%. I would take the points as well here. You look at Wazoo, 4-0 this year on neutral courts. They've covered 9 of 13 on neutral courts as well. They've just been good under Ernie Kent. They were really good in the out-of-conference slate on the in some of them tournaments. And Oregon 0-3 on neutral courts this year, kind of random. But yeah, I think Wazoo's kind of a decent dog at these kind of prices. They're good from the foul line. They make their 3-point shots. They've been good lately offensively, winning and covering 4 or 5. Yeah, I don't think Oregon's. I'm not comfortable laying this kind of number with them. They've struggled defensively lately. They foul almost 20 times a game. That's too many. I think Wazoo will hang around in a drabby Pac-12 game on a Wednesday. I would probably take the point as well with Donnie.
Ian, we got the West Coast late night special. You going to make it 3 in a row on the Cougs?
what is it, 11:30 p.m. Eastern. I'll be up, though. I don't go to bed till 2 a.m., so I'll be seeing this game. I'm actually going to go on the total here. I was actually looking Oregon, but I didn't want to lay this many points. We'll go over 147 because Oregon's going to flat out score on this Washington State team as far as I'm concerned. There's no denying that whatsoever. There's a horrible Washington State team defensively, 92, 76, 86 points allowed their last 3 games. But as big man mentioned, Washington State's been able to score the ball lately. They've scored 98 against a good Arizona team, albeit that was in overtime. They scored 76. They've scored points lately. 78 against Oregon, 84 against Stanford, 78 against Cal. So Washington State's perked up a little bit offensively in recent games. I think you can get this game over 147, and you're getting the best of the number now. This total opened 152. It's 147 now. So I'll buck that move, and we'll go up and over the 147 at some good line value. 5 points of value now to look the other way with this total.
All right, Ian, on the over 147, I will take Jeff and Donnie's advice and go Cougars plus 12.5. Looks like we can get 12.5 right now at Bookmaker, so make sure to shop around because there's 12s out there as well. Guys, last, certainly not least, bets time. They have been good, 66% since January 1st. 10-2 the last 3 weeks, off a 4-0 week. Let's start off with Ian Cameron from north of the border. Follow him on Twitter at Babano, his work at sportsmemo.com. Ian, lead us off with a good best bet.
Yeah, we're going to start with this money-making train for me that's kept working, and it has shown no signs of letting up here. We're going to go another game with the UMass Minutemen over the total as they take on LaSalle, an Atlantic 10 action. That total is 144.5 right now. Matt McCall, the head coach of this UMass team, has talked about how he's got no answers whatsoever for this UMass team defensively, and we see it time and time again. They've been good to give up pretty much 80 or 90 points in just about every game, with the exception of 2 over their last 10. And in those games, they still gave up 75 and 78. Should be a spot where LaSalle is able to hang a crooked number on this UMass team, which isn't playing a lick of defense. UMass is 11-0 to the over in their last 11 games, 11 straight overs in UMass games. I think it goes to 12 tonight. And 4-0 to the over, by the way. Last 4 meetings between LaSalle and UMass. Earlier this year, 87-72, 86-79. I think we get over this 144.5 with UMass and LaSalle. That'll be my best bet.
All right, UMass LaSalle over 144.5. Donnie had a winner on LaSalle minus a short number last week. Donnie, what do you got for best bets this week? And also follow Donnie on Twitter at RightSideVP. His work at DonnieRightside.com. One of the best minds in the sports betting business. Sorry about that, Donnie. Go ahead, man.
No, let's have some fun here. We're going to take it real quick to the Big East, and it's probably going to be a late game, a 9:30 tip, which probably means that game's not going to tip off till 10 o'clock. We'll have some late night action, late night fun. I'm going to go with DePaul and Marquette, 6-11, 6-12 in your rotation. We're going to lean on the over tonight, folks, over 149. You have a team in conference with DePaul, the #1 tempo team, and we've all seen it across the board. If you're going to give me tempo, at least you're going to get shots off against one of the most hapless defensive teams in the league. That's Marquette. Marquette should be able to knock down shots at will on offense. DePaul should be able to push the tempo here. And the one good thing I like about DePaul in this spot here, folks, there's no NIT. There's no CIT. There's no CBI. There's no anything. There's no round-robin tournament, at the school bookstore. This is their last game. If they are down 10 with 2 minutes to go, they will foul to extend this basketball game. Let's get that late, maybe 15-point last minute and a half. Let's go over the total of 149. This is my best bet for the week.
All right, Donnie on DePaul over 149. We'll save Jeff, Mr. College Basketball, till last. Guys, I have a question for you. I need your approval. Can I make my best bet the Chris opener and fade Auburn versus the winner of Texas A&M and Alabama? Am I allowed to do that on Friday?
Sure, I guess. Yeah.
I
don't care enough about this to object, Drew, so yeah, go for it.
All right, I'm making my best bet. Whatever Chris opens the game at, the Texas A&M Alabama winner over Auburn. I'm going against my alma mater here. That will be my best bet. I just don't like the card tonight, guys. I don't want to force anything. Best bets have been good, so I'm going with that.
Cool.
Fading Auburn in their first game against SEC, whatever Chris opens the number at. Jeff is the Mr. College Basketball. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. Has been killing it on Twitter with his free plays. Jeff, what do you got for best bets for us, man?
I will go with soccer again. Champions League today. Bang, boom, boom. Juventus, Tottenham. Let's go Juve. Forza Juve. I'm going to go both teams score a goal. Minus 128. 1-5-3-3-4 on 5 dimes. You can bet that. I'm going to go both teams score. Both these teams, particularly Juventus, need to go forward. They have to score due to blowing a 2-0 lead in Turin in the last game. Juventus must score. They cannot afford a draw. If they draw, they don't advance. Tottenham would advance on aggregates because they have the away goals. Juve needs to go forward. Tottenham, they showed they could break down this Juventus side as well. Listen, I love Buffon, Gianluigi Buffon. He's my favorite soccer player ever. I think he's the best goalkeeper we've ever seen in this beautiful game of football, but he's just too slow anymore. They broke down that defense. Harry Kane's one of the best players in the world. I think we'll see both teams score in this game. I think it's going to end 1-1. I'll root like hell for Juventus. I'm a big Juventus fan, but it's going to be tough. You got to go to Wembley, a place you don't do particularly well at. I'm going to go both teams score in this match at minus 128 in Juventus, Tottenham.
Juventus versus Tottenham?
Correct.
Okay.
The Spurs.
Juventus versus Tottenham. And for the people not too familiar with soccer betting, both teams have to score. So 1-1, 2-1, anything like that, minus 128. Correct, Jeff?
Correct. As long as we see goals from both sides, yes. I think the score will end 1-1, honestly.
All right. So we got Jeff on that soccer bet. I'm on fading Auburn in their first SEC game at whatever the Chris opener is. We got Donnie DePaul over 149. Ian on UMass LaSalle over 144.5. Both of those tonight's games. Jeff's today's as well. Guys, anything else before we wrap this up?
Thank you.
All
Great
good.
show.
All right. Well, good stuff. Thanks, everybody in the live chat. If you could, give us the thumbs up button. It helps us out. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, for big-time March Madness betting talk. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
Good luck, everyone.